All right, I'm going to warn you right now. There may be some spoilers in this review, though I'm going to start spoiler-free. At first, I'll let you know when I'm going to be getting into spoilage, but we're about to be talking about the latest addition to the MCU, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. All right, the much-anticipated sequel to Black Panther is here. I watched it on opening night, Thursday night, watched it with Jelani, watched it with Brooks, watched it with an open mind and high expectations. The initial Black Panther movie, the original, was one of my favorites of the MCU. I thought it was a standout. I thought it was a highlight. Obviously a culturally significant movie. And then unfortunately we have the death of Chadwick Boseman. So that is something that's heavily focused in on this movie, is his passing. So they write it into the movie that he has passed. They don't, they didn't want to recast him and all that kind of stuff. But in the movie, it is about kind of mourning. It is about grief, all right? Shuri's kind of the main character, but Angela Bassett is a big standout. Her performance is really great. She's already getting all this Oscar talk. I do think that is extremely warranted. Her performance is incredibly powerful, strong, and steadfast in this movie, and it blew me away. She delivers power and authority through the veil of grief throughout this movie. She captures it with a nuance and an energy and an intensity that is to be applauded. Then we go into Okoye. Okoye's there's a lot of characters in this movie, right? And none of them, to me, feel like they're the main character, right? And Okoye is a great character, and she's involved, but then kind of quickly gets sidelined. M'Baku is back. He's a highlight here. He is the comedic relief when it's definitely needed. This is not structured or executed like your typical Marvel fare. It doesn't have a joke every 2 seconds. The jokes are very sparse and very needed when they are introduced. And Winston Duke delivers an insanely awesome performance, even though he's not in it a lot. He really displays a great sense of presence when he is on screen, and he's amazing. Lupita Nyong'o as Nadia. She's also really good. All of the performances in this movie are absolutely fantastic. There's not a bad performance in the movie. There's just underutilized characters. Nadia's one of them. They all have moments, but it never connects together. Riri Williams is in here. Nadia and Riri have some really great moments together. So does Shuri and Riri. And Riri is an interesting character. I would very much now be excited to see her in her own show, but it felt kind of shoehorned in, felt forced in, didn't need to be there, and it added to an already padded running time just having her. And at the end, when she puts on the Ironheart armor, the CG, I wouldn't necessarily say it was bad, but it definitely stood out, and it felt like something. I've heard somebody say it looked like something from the Nintendo 64 put over a Marvel movie. I don't know if it was quite like a 64, but it kind of stood out. All right, Namor. My bad, Namor. His name's not Namor, it's Namor. I guess I can get over that. That's fine. First of all, the look of the character was fantastic. I was there. They don't use Atlantis. They call it something else. I can't even remember what it is. It starts with a T. I don't mind that. It's got a connection to Mayan culture. I'm into ancient civilization theories and stuff like that, so I was on board with the way that they did it. I thought that his reasoning was spot on. I thought all of that was fine. The one thing I didn't like about Namor, though, he ain't got that swag. You know what I'm saying? Namor's got a suaveness to him. He's got a sensual nature about him. And he's very threatening at the same time. And he's very full of himself. He comes across kind of like he should be more cocky. In this one, I just felt like the characterization was a little off. I didn't mind the changes to the civilization, didn't mind the changes to his backstory, didn't mind the changes to even to the reason of his motivation. I just didn't like the fact that he seemed like Namor didn't have his swagger in this movie. Which leads me to my biggest criticism of the movie is how dark it was. Now, this movie was very hard for me to see. And the other Atlanteans, I'm just going to call them Atlanteans, Talokan. That's what it is. Talokan. The other Atlanteans, I'm just gonna do it the way I do it. The other Atlanteans were underutilized. That's Atuma. Why? Why is he in the movie? Just to be there, just to sell an action figure, I guess. There were some cool moments of fighting, but for the most part, towards the end, it just becomes this big CG mesh yet again. But that's being overly critical of things or whatever. This movie was incredibly dark for me, and I haven't seen a lot of other people mention this, but there were literal moments where we could not see what was going on in the screen. It did not look like the trailer. I have found other people on YouTube talking about this, which makes me think that there is some kind of problem with some of the digital copies that got sent out. And then at the end, we do have Black Panther. There is a new Black Panther, and we know who it is. I guess we're getting into spoilers here. Spoilers. Black Panther now is Shuri, and it's fine, and it's awesome, and it works, and it looks cool. And when she finally becomes it, it builds up to a nice crescendo. But Shuri just doesn't ever feel quite like the main character for me. So when that ending happens, I'm not saying it doesn't feel earned. I just feel like for a movie that's 2 hours and 40 minutes, that is filled to the brim with top-notch performances by everybody. The dude that played Namor is fantastic. I can't remember his name. Somebody please throw it out there. All the performances are amazing. But for a movie that's 2 hours, 40 minutes, that handles the loss of Chadwick Boseman very respectfully, graciously, and heartfeltly, for a movie that does that with this running time, with these amazing performances, it doesn't feel like there's a point of view in this movie. Doesn't feel like there's a character arc to follow as a thread point through, a thorough point, right? Like something that's guiding us through the movie. The movie's got some really great bits. It's got some pacing issues, I definitely think. It's overstuffed. It's got some characters that are thrown in there. We were talking about the Contessa, Valentina, Allegra de Fontaine, whatever. That's unnecessary. I love Martin Freeman. I love Everett Ross. Unnecessary. Riri Williams, really charming character in this movie. Unnecessary. That could have cut down some things. That could have added more elements of what was going on. I will also just say this. There was a mid-credit scene, but no post-credit scene. So you don't have to wait till the very, 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 very end. Spoilery territory here, I guess. I mean, we've already kind of spoiled the stuff. Spoilery. Shuri is the new Black Panther, but it doesn't feel like she should have been the main character. It should have been her performance, her movie. And in a way, it kind of is, but it does lose that focus. This is a movie to me that loses focus here and there, right? From what I can see in the trailers. Now, the scene, there's one scene where Namor shows up on the beach. And it's the first time that Shuri and Ramonda see and meet Namor, right? Or Namor from Talokan. Not Namor of Atlantis. It's fine. I don't mind those changes. We could not see what was on the screen. We just could not see it. We just could not see it. And the way Namor comes up is so nonchalant. There should have been, like I said, that swagger. There should have been that cockiness, that arrogance. That's not there in this movie. And, I'm a Namor fan. I've read Fantastic Four comics my whole life. Fantastic Four is my favorite jam. You know what I'm saying? So, I've read plenty of Namor. And I feel like I got an understanding of how Namor should be approached. And I feel like everything was great about it. He just didn't have that kind of thing. Like, Killmonger had more of that, And obviously he's not near as good as Killmonger as a villain. Now, spoilers, we're in spoilers. There is a Michael B. Jordan cameo here. And the way it's placed in the movie it makes sense. And that's supposed to be the vibe. Here's the thing. The movie's got a lot of good elements, but it's trying to do too much all at the same time. It's trying to set up some weird shit with the contestant for some reason. Like, why are we doing setup for Secret Invasion and Thunderbolts here in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever? It does start out, it's heartfelt. They changed the Marvel logo, the Marvel Studios logo. It's all Chadwick Boseman. It'll bring a tear to your eye. The opening of this film is, what I loved about it was mournful, but it was also celebratory. right? And I really appreciated that. But then the movie just kind of meanders around for a while, and it's doing a lot, it's juggling a lot, it's trying to do certain things, but it also has other things felt like they were shoehorned in. Namor doesn't have that swag. So many great performances, but the story just felt, and I get it, it's rough. Ryan Coogler had this movie written, and then Chadwick Boseman passed away. This is an unenviable task to make a sequel to a giant, important movie without the lead because he passed. It's a movie that deals with that. And I understand why there's some like a cathartic kind of sense to this movie for a lot of people. This movie felt like a mournful celebration of a loss that we all kind of shared in, right? And I think this movie has an impact on a lot of people. But story-wise, it is overstuffed with unnecessary threads and characters that all of these amazing performances don't really get spotlighted to shine. Even Angela Bassett, who kills it in this movie, is kind of like a small part of the movie. So it doesn't have a nice thread. It doesn't have a core story to like bring me interest in. It's got its elements. Namor's trying to, he wants Wakanda to team up with him against the rest of the world. That's fine and all. There is no Doctor Doom kind of thread or anything like that. And I don't care about that. All my expectations for this were, what are they going to do to top what they did? The problem is there's just a lot of stuff that was set up for other things. The Midnight, what are they called? The Midnight Angels. They set all that up, but it's not utilized. It doesn't feel important in the movie. It feels like it's just an afterthought that's just thrown in there to set up something else. So it feels overstuffed. It feels rather ambitious, but at the same time, it doesn't live up to what it's trying to approach or what it's trying to achieve. And the reason why it doesn't do that, in my opinion, is just because they were trying to put too much in there. This movie, I think, could have been stripped down a few characters in 20 minutes and been a very powerful movie. And you got to give Namor his swag back. I mean, Sue Storm ain't falling for that shit. Anyway, so overall, I would give Black Panther Wakanda Forever 3 out of 5 ya digs. I don't think it was terrible. And as far as the not being able to see things, when Jelani was over here on our game night, and he goes, watch that clip on YouTube. They released that clip on YouTube. We watched it. We could see everything. So there's something wrong with some or all of the digital prints that are out there. If you watched it, what do you think? If you watched it, was it overly dark? Was it overly dark? This one dude I watched on this podcast said it felt like the brightness was down like 35%. Literally could not see some of the scenes in this movie, what was going on. That really affected the way I thought about this movie at first, but then seeing those clips online from the movie and being able to see it, knowing what Ryan Coogler can do visually through the other Black Panther movie, plus I've just been going hard into researching about filmmaker mode on my TV, and Ryan Coogler is one of the big proponents of it, so he cares about the way the movies look. And I can see how this movie's supposed to look majestic. I cannot wait to see it on Disney Plus, I guess, on my TV when the Blu-ray comes out. Maybe it'll improve a little bit more, but to me, the script needed some work. It needed shrunk down a few characters, some time. It needed to strengthen some of the characterizations on these amazing performances, let them all have a moment to shine, and it needed Shuri to have a core thread throughout the entirety of the movie. It feels like it just goes off in different things. It feels like it's a Marvel Disney Plus show truncated down to almost 3 hours, where it goes from episode to episode. Maybe it would work episodically, but it didn't work as a cohesive whole for me. But not a bad movie. Some of the CG, obviously, they're also making this during COVID protocols and all that shit, so a lot of green screen work that doesn't quite work for me. However, in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, he had to put in a whole new character who filmed all of her scenes on a green screen in her backyard in a cave with scraps, and it looked amazing. So, I get it. So for me, I'm going 3 ya digs for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below.